said, we've given choices to people to select a date. So we have some today, some tomorrow, some day after, I think. Lots of people have been calling and wanting to come. Others have been calling and telling me, Harsha, we are with you. Sorry, we won't be able to come. All that encouragement actually is what keeps me going. Essentially for me, when I left a job like you are doing, I took a risk in life. What am I trying to do? Why am I leaving the opportunity to continue to stack up my bank account? I come from a very middle class family. My parents started out life as teachers. After having graduated from Veeradhani University, my father was a teacher at Dharmaraja College. He taught history. And then he went on to join the public service and retired as a senior officer. And he's retired now. My mother was a singer teacher at Ananda Sastra. She died young when my younger sister and I were just getting ready to face the world. There was a lot of challenges at home, growing up without the love of your mother, getting into difficulty, not succeeding at the beginning, but trying hard and making it finally. My sister is a pediatrician working for the government, and I who I am. and that, I think, gave me the change or that one significant event in my life that I thought, and I think my sister also thought, that there are things that we need to do for more than ourselves. In fact, when my mother passed away, I remember it very well, it was such a struggle to bring her cancer medicine. And I remember my uncle used to bring it down from the UK. The reason was the markets weren't working. People were not able to cope with life's issues because not everybody was equal. And something was wrong. Most of us may remember the kerosene smelling white shirt and the blue trouser material we got. I remember two mothers distributing it at the canteen at the Royal Primary School. There was a time that there was not even a motorcycle on the road. We have to travel by CTV bus. And suddenly when JR came, he changed the system. And he tried to create a society where people could work hard and play by the rules and get ahead in life. Of course, there were the odd ones who always game the system, and there will be people who game the system throughout, I guess, as long as generations to come. But the environment that you felt, look, I have a chance. If I have some ability, I have a vision, I can master some investment, I can make it in life. And that happened with JR. And there was a structural shift. I don't use the word, what was it that you used, Lakshman? Something to that effect. But as an economist, I use the word structural shift. And here I mean a structural shift in the growth path of Sri Lanka. And then suddenly you saw private investment, you saw liberalization of finance, you saw new legal structures, and that just created the environment for individuals to, like I said at the beginning, to prosper. And that whole idea of capitalism that, you work hard, you can get ahead in life, was introduced. So small businesses began, companies started to grow. People ask, why did Ronnie print money? Since Nandalal is also here, during the Mahavali construction period, there was no other way because there was no private sector, there were no foreign investors at the time. We got a few grants from friendly countries, and JR said, do it, find the money. And then we saw inflation going to 28% and so on. But now that has changed completely. There is a big dynamic private sector. There is opportunity for foreign direct investment. We are in a completely different era now. But yet, we are stuck. We are stuck. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, I don't know if he's here, wrote a very interesting piece that I've been quoting in the last few days, that we can't compete with Bangladesh. But the problem is that we can't compete with Malaysia. People can say, well, Sri Lanka has lower wage rates, why can't we compete with investors going to Malaysia? They can come here. But we are unable to do that. So we are stuck in what he calls and what most people are talking about, a middle income trap. So if we are in this predicament, and as most of you probably know, debt is a serious concern. We don't make enough revenue in terms of taxes to pay our debt repayment annually. Even last year, we had outflow of about 1,074 billion in terms of principal and interest, while tax revenue was about 1,050 billion. Of course, there was some other non-tax revenue. But the point is, continuously, we are struggling as a government to make ends meet. What about expenditure on other things? How do we pay for education? How do we pay for health? How do we pay for the subsidies? So really think about that, and you try and link that with the company that you own or work for, or your household. How do you manage? So we are really worried about the progress as we see now is not very rosy. Even growth, we thought we were growing at 7.5%, 8%. But the moment we rebased it, or rather the rebasing exercise was completed a few weeks ago, a month ago maybe, we realized Sri Lanka was only growing at 4.5% in 2004 and 3.5% in 2014 and 3.5% in 2013. So growth of 3.5% and 4.5% certainly is not a great achievement. We were talking about having double-digit growth. So how do we get to double-digit growth? We are only growing at these levels. Then what about the inequality of income? Right? Most of you here don't really understand that, because you deal with friends and relations who are like you. But if you really go down and walk and meet the people in low-income areas, there are lots of low-income areas in this country. And a lot of low-middle-class people don't want to admit that they have problems, because they are kind of ashamed to tell their friends that they can't make ends meet. So they pretend that they are okay. But if you really check them, ask them seriously, sit them down, how much money have you saved? Hardly anything. And perhaps they may have taken a housing loan, that's probably the max. And once they pay that, there's really nothing left over. So what about the kids? We all think about our kids. We need to educate our kids. expensive. How do you make sure that we have that finances with us? But let me tell you, perhaps everyone here in this room will not be asking that question. But the moment you step outside, that's a serious question that needs to be answered. So what I'm trying to say is that while we have done reasonably well due to our policies of free education, free health, literacy, low population growth and all that, we have come to a level that we cannot continue to move in small changes. Marginal improvements are not what we require. So what we need is a structural shift. We need to have another JR type change from 77, 78. We need to have that kind of massive improvement in the way we do, in the economy, the structure itself. So think about it yourself. What are we going to do? A step change, marginal change, go from 4.5% to 5%, or 3.5% to 4%? You guys are bankers, CEOs of companies, running private enterprises, some employ thousands of people. Are you going to be happy with 4.5% growth? I'm asking you. Are you happy with 4.5% growth? Certainly not. Then how do we go to 10 from 4.5? How do we go to 10 from 4.5? I mean, if we were at 8, going to 10 is perhaps easier than if we are certainly at 4.5. So that is why I think that we need huge changes. That is what I think. I've been talking with PM for a long time on this, many years. This conversation has been over the last 5 years or perhaps even longer. And he's a great visionary. Some of us criticize him, saying this, that, Monty, all given, right? But he's a man who will sit and think out of the box, right? Sit and think out of the box. He told me one day, Harsha, you need to start reading about the Finnish education system. He told me, Harsha, that's the best in the world. So we spoke to some people at World Bank and other places who really looked at this, and we looked at it, and then some of the things that we are doing in education, for instance, making O-level not a sort of a kind of exam that you won't be able to promote, you won't be promoted to advanced level class. That changed. For instance, from next year, every kid will get a 13-year guaranteed education, right? Things of that nature. Talking about vocational schools and other technology institutes. He's talking about creating so many colleges of technology, etc. So all that thinking comes from, he reads a lot, he analyzes a lot. If ever I walk into his room and he's not being harassed by somebody with some political problem, he's on the computer reading. And all those have culminated in coming up with a plan for the next 5 years. And that we call knowledge-based, highly competitive social market economy. I saw Subrasini Renegade had criticized, what is this? This doesn't mix. How can you have social market economy and neoliberalism together? I need to have a chat with Subrasini at some point in time. But don't worry about the labels. Think of what we are trying to do. We are trying to create the most competitive economy in this part of the world. That is what we want to do. The most competitive economy in this part of the world. Because if we don't do that, we will not be able to get to at least the levels of Malaysia in the short term, but surpass Malaysia and move forward in the medium term.